500 Cannery Row. The area between El Torito and the chart house has been like this for a long time. Here is the view of the site from the bay and a satellite view. A large condominium development is proposed for the site, but without water and financing, nothing has happened. It's time to move forward and make this valuable waterfront site into an attraction, a place to explore and learn and enjoy, a place for the benefit of residents and visitors, the businesses adjacent to the site, and the city at large. On August 16, 2013, the students enrolled in the Summer Landscape Architecture Design Studio at Cal Poly, San Luis Obispo, presented a variety of ideas for the development of this site.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Matthew Parker. I'm a fifth-year landscape architecture student, and my view of this site is what I call the gateway at 500, since the address is 500 Cannery Row. And the reason I went with a gateway theme is because when I was at the site, I noticed that it's a major corridor area. You have Cannery Row coming through here. You have the recreational trail coming through here. As Bob said, a lot of the buses come in and drop off people. This is a heavily used parking lot area as well. So it's just a very high traffic area where people begin their journey into Cannery Row. So I saw it as an opportunity to make it a gateway where it's a good starting point, a staging area for visitors and locals as well to kind of start their journey into Cannery Row. So I'll just start with the as if you were entering my site. So if you're entering it from the rec trail, for example, if you're a bicyclist, I have this area right here for bicyclists to come in, and you can lock up your bike. There's also bike rentals. It's just an area for you to drop off everything and proceed into Cannery Row on foot. There's also a parking lot area in here where currently all the parking spots are diagonal. I moved them perpendicular, which freed up space along the top to have a bus lane come in, and a kind of a shade structure, a very linear shade structure that acts as a bus depot with a series of benches underneath. So now people, when they are dropped off, they're not dropped off in arbitrary spots. They're not just kind of like, where am I? They're dropped off in a key location that's safe. There's places for them to sit, to kind of gather in groups before they proceed. There's a series of wayfinding stations and signage and maps and everything, so that the first moment they're dropped off in the area, they can now orientate themselves and now move into Cannery Row and have a better and pleasing experience in the city of Monterey. I used a series of planters around it. They capture stormwater runoff as well as permeable pavers as well to kind of mitigate a lot of the stormwater runoff, which is, as I understand in my research, a lot of the pollutants that enter the bay come from stormwater runoff. So by trapping the water and getting it to go into the ground and percolate down, you remove a lot of the pollutants before it enters the bay. A lot of the street parking I left intact. I got rid of it completely on the top here to allow for planters to catch water runoff before it enters the bay. The parking that was left intact here, there's a series of designated places to cross, and they're marked with a difference in paving material, so it's very easily seen, easy to distinguish for drivers and pedestrians to walk across it. These little planters that bud out here that cut into the parking also make it a safer. You're not trying to look past a car. You have an open area to walk out. You can see traffic on both sides. Drivers can see pedestrians easier as well. So it's a safer crossing into the coastline area. And so I've designated my coastline into three major sections. There's a nature walk. There's the historical walk, which is where Stohans currently exists. And then there's my art gallery. And the art gallery is very long and linear. As you come up later, you can get better looks of it here. But it's modeled after the Chinese fishing villages that used to be dotting the Monterey Peninsula that you don't see much history of when you're here. At least I didn't. So with the Chinese fishermen, they had these lot of series of vertical poles that they would use to hang marine life on to dry them out. So what I did is kind of to reflect that, I have these long vertical walls that are staggered with benches in between for people to sit. And there's artwork that can be displayed on them with lights. You can see it at night. So it kind of brings in the arts community into the site, and as well as it makes it useful as night as well. So it's not a place that's just vacant at night. It's now a place where you can experience it at night. It's more heavily used at night. That keeps crime down. That keeps positive interaction up at the site. You can walk from the art gallery either on the sidewalk or from the shoreline here into the history walk into Stohan's. So the history walk would be a series of artifacts and other items that are related to the fishing industry. You can also transition into here into the nature walk, where I have a series of native plants that kind of pay tribute to the natural history of the Monterey Peninsula, and they're also in linear fashion too to mimic the art gallery walls here. And there's also the trail also juts out into the bay a little with a place for fishermen to fish, and then it uses existing foundations that are there so that you're not disturbing any of the habitat. And then there's beach access here as well. So that's my presentation, and feel free to ask questions later during the question period.
Hi everyone, my name is Rachel Deroni. Thank you guys for coming today. My project is kind of, I call it the Roots of Cannery Row. It's introducing a parkway into 500 Cannery Row that reestablishes vegetation and sort of creates a root system of curving pathways that eventually lead to a revitalized beach. And our first visit to the site, we stopped at, I believe it's San Carlos Park, just down the way. And I was really inspired by, I saw all the divers coming in. It was a huge area of recreation. And so I sort of took ideas from that. I revitalized the beach and added some sort of dune restoration. So you kind of enter out through a dune, natural dune pattern and enter out onto a huge beach, which serves fishing, kayaking, and diving and swimming. The rest of the site is mostly native meadows and pathways, trail systems that you can walk around. And I converted Stohan's into a visitor center, which will have facility rentals, ADA accessible restrooms, and sort of an information kiosk as to tours of Monterey, tours of the site, and just kind of structurally updated, make sure it's safe. And but basically, the main route system connects to the Monterey Coastal Recreational Trail and curves through an updated parking lot. I sort of changed the arrangement. When we were there weren't very many cars parked there. I understood it was kind of a Saturday morning, but I guess there's a lot of fluctuation. So I decided to keep the parking lot, vegetate it, and create a walkway that extends over the road. And there's actually a pedestrian bridge, if you see down here in this section, that cars actually go under down through a slope, and you can walk through straight to the site. So it really gives pedestrians the right of way and kind of creates a gateway into Cannery Row. I put a median on the site just to kind of give it a more vegetated feel, and native plantings will be used throughout the site to really recognize that coastal significance we see here. The Monterey cypress, yeah, that's illustrated in the planting plan. So what I really wanted to focus on was the beach access and how you get to the beach and all the recreation that revolves around the beach. If you have any questions, let me know after the presentation. Thank you.
My name is Michael Vogt. I just want to say on behalf of the students as well, like, we appreciate this opportunity. We appreciate you guys coming out here. I know everyone has busy schedules. It's Friday. There's a lot of things you could be doing, but we all appreciate you guys coming out here. I named mine Sealand Park. And talking to Bob, he mentioned that he wanted a park, or that a lot of people have wanted a park to be put into a place where it was kind of vacant, that there wasn't much going on, but that when tourists come, that it could be a place that could be for the locals and also for the people not from Monterey. So Sealand Park, my idea was that we could see the land from the park. That we would take from the sea and the land and the city of Monterey, that we would have a sweeping connection. So when I thought about what I wanted in the concept of it, I took the sweeping connection, and that's what kind of formed the spaces that I designed within the site. So as you see on the base map, there's a lot of curvilinear, a lot of organic movement throughout the site. And I got that through, again, that sweeping connection. When doing the site analysis, we looked at, what's existing, existing structures, all sorts of things. And with doing that, I came up with a diagram of a conceptual space, and like where I wanted a large gathering area, where I wanted a small gathering area, all sorts of things. So throughout this, and later on when you have questions, I'd love to break down more into what that is. But my idea was to bring in more of the native aspect of Monterey, and that this park wouldn't just be this place where it didn't fit the context, but that it would mold into what Monterey is now. That with the vegetation, with the sweeping connection again, that it would form into it being one with Monterey and the land that it exists on. Here's a perspective of Stohan's and kind of just guiding the viewer into Stohan's as a gallery. And what I envision it as being is the anti-memorial that symbolizes the fishermen lost at sea. And here's a perspective of kind of what it would entail. Someone would walk past the window and a snapshot of a silhouette would happen, and it would kind of give that sense that we're all part of this, whether it be our family, our friends, or just beginning to learn the history of what the fishermen of Stohan's and Monterey and throughout the world had. Some different things that I thought about were, again, vegetation, what we could do to help bring it all together as one. Also, materials and different spaces that don't exist on the site, but it can become something else with what's existing. So I have this boardwalk here that's coming over the cliffside of 500 Cannery Way, and what I was envisioning it as is being a place where people can go out, look out on to the beach and throughout the pier and everything, and really just experience something they haven't experienced before. That it's a unique connection between the park itself. Throughout the park there's many nodes where people can sit and rest. There's boulders, there's no seating elements. It's all with boulders or natural slopes within the land, and you can see with the sections here that it's a place where it's comfortable for people to feel like they're in a natural set, that it's not a specific playground type thing. It's not a bunch of plastic chairs everywhere, but that it fits its context. So I'd love to answer any questions you have later on. Thank you for listening.
My name's Tom Van Pelt, and for full disclosure, I'm not a landscape architect. I'm a city planner, and so I think that came into play with my design, especially something that in our discussion with Bob, something Bob had said, which is that there's a lot of visitors to Cannery Row and to Monterey, but they come in the morning and most of them leave at night, and the city's losing out on the potential revenue that could be had from them spending the night here. And so my design is really trying to encourage visitors to spend the night in Monterey. And I wanted to do that by basically providing a night park. And it would be open for the whole family. A lot of nocturnal activity is more for like bars and things like that. And I wanted something that would be the whole family could come out at night and enjoy this space. And so I had repurposed Stohan's as an extension of the Monterey Aquarium, but as a nocturnal aquarium. And so it would have an educational component, and then also in the section you can see that it would actually go underground and be extended so that it goes out into the ocean, and there would be viewing glasses, a viewing area, so that you could see the nocturnal animals with aquarium-grade, non-invasive lights, so that you could actually see the aquatic wildlife in its natural habitat at night. Also, there's these aquatic-themed statues throughout the site that would be under protected play space that children could climb on in the day, and at night they would have LED runners through them so that children could climb on them and play on them, and families could feel safe having their children out at night. My memorial is down here is themed as a lighthouse, and I call it the Maidens of Cannery Row, and it would have lights in them, and at night you could step in front of them and the lights would slowly change colors. So it'd be constantly changing colors, and the kids could jump on them and run from spot to spot, and it would be a really interactive experience. Finally, I wanted to also make it so that you could access the beach easier. Like you see in a lot of the other projects, I still wanted there to be a daytime component, and so I provided beach access right through here. And yeah, this whole area right in front, I wanted to leave the road for so that delivery trucks and things like that could get through, but that the pedestrians were given priority with this new paving pattern that goes across the street, and that cars could still come through, but they'd have to really want to come through. They'd really have to have a purpose, that this would be more of a pedestrian place. Finally, I provided these viewing stages up top to really be able to see the entire site, and also to be able to see the beautiful views of the estuary and of the rest of Monterey. Yeah, thank you.
The fish hopper tanks, the concrete walls would actually be broken up into segments in order to create like a walk-through outdoor gallery, and it would be filled with statues and different art pieces to kind of extend the idea of Stohan's gallery out into the outdoors, and with views of the ocean as well. And jumping off from that, I decided to make the entire site a series of fragments that have a different experience with each one. And with the other existing rooms, I guess, that are kind of there, or the building foundation that exists right here, that would be the anti-memorial, which is here on the site. And the same idea would be continued with breaking up the walls into segments, kind of breaking up the view shed to focus your eyes into certain areas of the landscape. And the anti-memorial would consist of salt molds that embody fishermen's wives that are waiting for their husbands to come back. And over time, the salt would dissolve with the moisture in the air. So each time that people come visit, they're dissolving with the time. And adding an educational element, I wanted it to be very subtle. I didn't want it to be very forceful like much of the tourism that exists around Monterey. I wanted the site to be more for individual enjoyment. And I wanted to keep segments of the concrete that's currently existing and some of the invasive species, which probably sounds crazy, but create a sequence of what is currently existing into a block of invasive species to teach people about no matter what we do, we've made an impact on that landscape. And you can't just take everything out and pretend it never existed, because all that rubble has to go somewhere. And in that, you have to do more to the landscape as well. So, and then sequencing from that, you would go to a more clean, formalized landscape with a lawn area and bonfire pits along the ledge that would look over the ocean. And there's also an ADA accessible ramp down to the ocean with a staircase and a pier that overlooks the ocean. And what else do we have? Stohan's would also be converted into a cafe gallery, so providing kind of a leisurely area for site visitors. And all the existing rubble that's here, which was really interesting to me because there's pieces of brick that are buried within all the concrete rubble, and that would be repurposed to to construct a gabion wall along the outdoors of the site, along the sidewalk, that would be fragmented as well to give you framed views of the ocean, and also just to repurpose material. And yes, so thank you.
My name's Tony Webster. Thank you all for coming. As you know, our site, 500 Cannery Row. To start my project, obviously we did a lot of site inventory and analysis work. Once we got through all that, we were to come up with concept statements to kind of define how our design was going to go forward. And I was just really inspired, like Rachel was talking about earlier, about San Carlos Beach and how integral the ocean itself is, not only to Monterey currently, but also in the historical past. You guys have the aquarium, so there's a large interest in sea life, as well as obviously it's Cannery Row. It's all about the fishing industry and all that. So I really wanted to focus on using the ocean as inspiration, so I decided to use the forms and the essence of the ocean as my concept. So as you can see, I have some waveforms going through that repeat. That was a very strong driving force behind my design, and I also wanted to reconnect people with the ocean. So my main feature, I guess, on the site would be connecting this beach back in and having these terraces that go down that provide several different levels of views of the bay, as well as this is all much higher up, and then these terrace down. So you have entrance to the beach, and I wanted to give all these views. These terraces also slope slightly this way, and this is a stormwater runoff system that will help cleanse the water before it re-enters either the water table or the ocean water. I also redid the parking lot to be a little bit more friendly, have some green space. I also implemented green strips every few parking spots to help reduce the heat island effect. That way, you know, microclimates can get kind of intense. So decided to help out with that. The other main feature that I wanted to include was a very historical area to kind of give that sense of Cannery Row and the fishing history. So there were questions earlier about keeping the concrete fish pools. I decided to keep them in my design and give some historical signs that explain what they were, but at the same time repurpose them. So I staggered both planting and reflection pools, so you can look in. It's just a nice little walkthrough experience, but it also gives some history. Stillhands Gallery is to be repurposed as like a small museum, almost like in the aquarium they have that, that area that has the history of canning and Cannery Row and all that. I thought that'd be really interesting to kind of bring out and bring to the public, maybe something that people would like to know without having to go to the aquarium and pay admission and all that. Also, the historic fishing hopper that's there, also included, refurbished, and kept with some signage to kind of give that, that explanation. I also incorporated a fishing area because when we went on the site, or to the site, I guess we weren't technically on the site. Maybe we were, but let's not talk about that. So there were some fishermen down there, down on the shore. So, I mean, it's pretty rocky down there, so I figured, you know, these people are already using the site. If we redesign it, we don't want to take away from that user base. So I decided to put in a dedicated fishing area for those people to go down. I also wanted to include not only a sandy beach, but I wanted to retain some of that rocky shoreline because not only does that give habitat, but it also kind of gives that intrigue. You can go climb on those rocks. You can go explore like Tom was talking about. I have already taken this class, so I was not required to do an anti-memorial. I was called to do a standard memorial. To tie into the fishing history that I had right here, I decided to make a wave structure that is a memorial to the populations of sardines that have been overfished so that they are no longer as prevalent in the area. So you have a wave structure, and as the wave is building up, there's lots of sardine shapes in it. And then as it crashes, those sardines start to go away, and they're few and far between near the end. So I would have some signage explaining that as well. On this side, I just have a very open garden walk, seat wall, nice vegetated area to kind of give that open space feel, so that you have the beach, you have this relaxing area, you have the history, but you also have some open area that you can kind of interpret for yourself. Just go relax, sit down. I know a lot of people that are on Cannery Row get really tired walking around, so come on, sit down and just relax.
My name is Danny, and this is my project for 500 Cannery Row. With this project, I really want to address the three main issues, that being the users, the history, and the ecology of the site. So to begin with the users, I know there's a lot of visitors such as tourists and locals that come to this area. So to address the locals, I just kept it as a park because I feel like most of you guys would like an open space added to the coastline. Creating different, different spaces that are just open meadows. And then to address the visitors, I created a series of pathways, defined pathways, that connect you from the Monterey Peninsula Recreational Trail into the site itself, and then along with the sidewalk into the history portion. With the users, I would like them to be able to have different areas of recreational usage. So there would be the beach for kayaking, docking, and like scuba diving entrances and all that fun stuff that beach can provide for recreational use, along with a part for children, because they are a big part of tourists. I know a lot of families come to the site. So I had a park, natural park system, park playground, you can say, into the site. Also integrated with stadium seating, almost with grass area provided for the parents so they can see their children. So it feels like a safe place for them to play on. And then natural tide pools, keeping this beach 1/4 rock and the rest of it sand. So these natural tide pools are open for the children to look at, play in, and interact with. As for the community, I created this huge open space over here for you guys to possibly have farmers markets or gatherings with, I don't know, weddings or whatever you guys feel like. And also creating Stohan's into a gallery slash seating lunch area. So half the building would be open for the gallery and half the building would be open for the lunch tables. Going into the history of the site, we have the hopper and the building itself of Stohan's and this fish tanks over here. I wanted to preserve the fish tanks along with the fish hopper and this building itself. So the structure of the building is going to keep in contact. The hopper is going to be have signage on it saying what it is, what it used to be, and kept as is. And then the tanks are going to be turned into a pond, a retention pond, making water, I don't know, visible, and then addressing the history of it by putting plaques next to it. As for the history of this area right here, this is historically an open space, so that's why it's left as is an open space. And sorry, and for the other part was this area up here, which is dressed as a bird watch, because right now it's just an old standing structure that is historically connected to this building, but it's not used as a building anymore. It's more for the ecology. So that brings me into the ecology portion. For this, I wanted to keep it pretty environmentally friendly, being less invasive as possible. So I tried to keep most of my structure already on the defined concrete paving areas. So that's how I got my forms of my spaces. Right now, I added this area over here for the fishermen, which is a pier that's kind of close into the building, not going too far out into the ocean. Again, being less invasive for the kelp forest environment. And then this pier over here, which goes only 100 yards out, which is not that big of a, 100 feet out, which is not that big of a pier. Going into the pier, that's where my anti-memorial is up here, and it's going to be of a lady holding a lantern. The lantern is the the lantern is the changing part. You interact with it by turning it on and off yourself by holding the lady's hand, signifying like if you're with her, the lantern turns off, meaning that she no longer needs to search for that person out to the sea. Yeah, so generally it's a park. I put parking underneath to keep it optional for the users. And yeah, thank you for listening.
My name is Ashley Alapusan Marquez, and first I'd like to ask you, can you all see the poster? Is it fine? Okay, perfect. And second, I'd love to thank you guys for coming and giving us the opportunity, especially Bob Evans, to design here in Monterey. So my design is called Discovery Park, and this design has a concept behind it that's called giving the shoreline back to the public. And what that entails, it's giving the shoreline back to the natural marine life. It's giving you back the history that's existing on this site that's so treasured on Cannery Row. And it's also giving you what it says back, the shoreline. It's giving you access. So the first thing that I wanted to take you to is the historical section of the site, which is over here. What I've done is I've preserved most of the elements. The Stohan's Gallery, I'm proposing to turn it into somewhat of a museum so that you can also include historical elements throughout Cannery Row and keep it in this historical structure. I also kept the tank in the front in the original location, and I moved the fish hopper back from here to here. The fish hopper will be restored, and it will have a historical plaque or informational board in order to reflect its purpose, and also the tanks that I've covered over. And that leads me to the Tevis Murray garden wall, which is over here. There are remnants, but it's the oldest historical structure on Cannery Row right now. And what I wanted to do was to give you a viewing point from here on. So I'm replicating the wall and remodeling it to continue here and here so that you can historically reflect on what Cannery Row has to offer in that area. And then I want to take you down here where this is what I wanted to especially showcase was a natural playscape. This park is especially for the family, and what I wanted to do was incorporate elements such as tumble mounds. I'm repurposing boulders down from the shoreline and spreading them throughout the site, but especially here for children to just climb on and develop their motor skills. And I'm also including just large tree trunks or tree logs to sit on for them to hop on, and there's also sand pits for them to just explore their imagination. This isn't a playground that's red, yellow, and blue. It's not plastic. It's real. It's natural. And it gives you back the connection of nature that we all had when we were little, but I want to give it back to this modern society now. Another part is this structure here. I don't know if you guys can see this, but this is a perspective that I drew, or that I made on the computer for it's like a pedestrian bridge structure that there's 3 other ones on Cannery Row, and they are connecting building to building. So what I wanted to do was create a pedestrian overpass to connect and safely transport the users from this side to this side of the park. It is also a direct connection from the recreational trail, so it's connecting users from all around. And finally, I have this area over here, which is called Picnickers Point. And this area is graded down from street level at 24 feet elevation down to 12 feet. And it's graded down kind of just to reinforce a concept. I'm giving you back the shoreline, and this site is naturally guiding you from a higher elevation down here, and it is giving you back the shoreline. And that is my project. Thank you very much for listening.
I'm Matt Hawks. My project is reconnecting Cannery Row. It's pretty broad theory. I wanted it to be broad because I wanted to reconnect a lot of different things. I wanted to connect locals and tourists. I wanted to connect industry and history. I wanted to connect industry and history to ecology. I wanted to connect a lot of things. So there's a lot going on here. I went about all of that by creating this timeline through 4 different periods of kind of the history of Cannery Row and this space in particular. Flip sides here. This over here is the pre-settlement period, as I call it. So before there were people here, I imagine it as Monterey cypress, northern coastal meadows, and other stands of groves. This is buckeye. So all native plants here. As you transition from there on this historic walk that pulls you off the sidewalk into the park, you get into the fishing side. The fishing is really the history and industry of the site. So there's a lot of different exhibits I have here. It starts with the transition from the pre-settlement to the fishing with the Chinese fishing villages. That's kind of the first thing that fired into the fishing industry here at Cannery Row. So we have representation of the fishing huts. And then as you walk further, you get into the information station, which will have pamphlets on the different exhibits here, which are the fish hopper, the reduction tank, which will have information on Stohan's particular grasp on fish reduction. And also there's a hopper exhibit, which, as she was asking earlier about the hopper, this is that ramp that goes down and has the different tanks that are basically turned into ponds now. And I wanted to have one that stays as a kind of a preservation in state of decay, so you can see, and also one that is like restored back to how it was in its use. And so you can see the transition. You can see what it was like and how it was used when it was cannery industry and what it's like now. As you go on, you eventually find your way to Stohan's Museum, which will have, it's basically a museum on the cannery industry on the site. So it's St. Xavier's, I believe it was, cannery, and Stohan's. After the cannery industry, it's all now tourist and commercial. And so this is the next period which I addressed. This part really focuses on what people come to Cannery Row for now, which is bird watching and most of all marine life and the aquarium. So we have marine life information and viewing areas and also bird areas. The final area is the restoration. This is how I kind of envision the future of this site. And so you come full circle back to cypress groves, back to native meadows, and also restoring the beach and creating beach access for scuba divers. Let's see. The last thing, my anti-memorial. My anti-memorial is dealing with the relationship of fishermen and their wives, the relationship between them. So I envision this as fishermen being guilty that they have to leave their wives, and the wives understanding because they have to be provided for. And so this fisherman is going to stand at the end of a tapering dock, signifying that he's going on it alone. And the fishermen wives will have their hands outstretched, and it will be somewhat of a wishing well in that as soon as change is put in the woman's hands, it will be weighted, and signifying that she will be provided for, the hands will drop. And so that's how I plan on reconnecting Cannery Row.
I'm Jerica Shern. So I called my plaza area the San Xavier Beach Park, and it's San Xavier because that was the cannery that was there before, as Matt said. I created a few different spaces in this area. The first thing that I'll talk about though is that I closed off the street to vehicular traffic. I wanted to keep it very pedestrian. I wanted people to walk through, and I wanted all of the people that are biking on the recreational trail to be able to go over here and it wouldn't be a problem at all. I also thought that because this road over here, Cannery Row, actually comes right through and then dips down, that it would be a pretty easy solution for them to go around and come over here. For the parking, I kept the small parking lot. It only has a few spaces in it, but I thought that would be maybe not enough for the area, but it would be a good amount to keep. I also created bus parking because I know that that's an issue. So it comes from this direction, and if it's buses from Carmel or if it's buses from Pacific Grove, that's pretty easy. The other thing is that I restored the Murray Garden as best I could. I'm not sure what's there. I don't know if anyone knows what's there, but I tried to keep it really natural, and there's a pathway through it so that you can sit down and you can just kind of be in a more planted area. I have this San Xavier lawn and open space in the middle. I wanted to create a park-like setting that wasn't too formal because I don't like to go somewhere where the grass is always cut. So I wanted to make sure that it was really open. To get from the restored Murray Garden to the San Xavier lawn, I created a rill that goes from the center of my plaza out, and it drops over the coast so that it looks like there's water just spilling onto the rocks, but there's actually a grate under there, so nothing will get, no pollutants will get into the area. And that actually goes by those fishery things that there's a fountain in there, and it kind of spills over into the rill. It's supposed to be very formal in this area. Over here I created a water play space, And it has little splash zones that can come up during different tides and stuff. It's going to all be connected. And I thought that would be really nice to have families go there. You can rinse off from the beach. It would just be really, really open, and along with this lawn, it would be a nice connection. I wanted to create beach access, but because of the change in grade, it was really difficult. So I created a ramp that goes down, and it has seating in it, so that all of that stuff is there for you. You don't have to bring your chairs. You don't have to bring anything other than yourself and your wetsuit or whatever it is that you want to bring. My anti-memorial, there's a small picture of it over here, is similar to Danny and Matt's. There's a long deck. It's a widow's walk. So I wanted to create that because I like the historic architecture. I think that that's really important that they created something like that for those people. I created that, and then at the very end I have a statue that stands there, and he's right out of reach and you can barely touch his hand. So my whole thing was that it's going to be out of brass, and it would patina right where the hand is, so you would know that there's people that come there and they're touching this. I left the existing cannery dock with the area for wildlife because I thought that that was really pretty when I went. And I wanted to make sure that other people can see all those different birds and all the different seals and stuff that get to sit in this area. So here's a perspective of my deck over here, and it's this deck. It's got the ramp within it. And I just put some plantings here. In this area I have Stohan's Plaza, so I've moved Stohan's because I thought that it blocked the view from out here, and I wanted to sort of centralize that area and create an information node. Next to that, I've also taken the hopper and the tank, so that when you're riding your bike, you're kind of drawn to this area. You want to know what is there, and I think that's a good central point from the two parking lots. You know, if the bus drops you off, you're going to know where you are. You're going to have a map there. It's going to show you how to get to the aquarium. It's going to show you how to get to the Plaza Hotel. And there's also a fountain in the center. I think I talked about it a little bit with the rill, but there's a little fountain right here. And this is the more formal area. So it goes all the way over here and then out through the rill. And it's got these little trees. Every paving pattern on this area, on this site, is mostly from the beach, all of the rubble from the beach, or the rubble from the street that has been brought up. I wanted to keep all of the elements that were on the site. I didn't want to dump them anywhere because I thought it was important that we're not taking the stuff that's from this site and just throwing it away. We're keeping all of the elements, all of the past, all of the future, and that's a really important thing to me. So I thought it was important for this too. So that's my project.
Yeah, I'm Jessica. When I first came to the site about 4 weeks ago, I came with the class and we started at San Carlos Beach Park, and we walked all the way to the aquarium through Cannery Row. I think it took us 5 hours because we were so intensely checking out the area. And about midday, it got very crowded, and this was the real visitor experience. It was hot and sunny. There were kids everywhere, and we had lunch there and everything, and it was fun. But it was also overwhelming. And my fiance and I, Isaac, we stayed another day, and the next day we were invited to my cousin's house for dinner. She lives in Carmel. Her husband and their family are the Canepas, and we got to talking. There were 4 generations there for dinner, and they were all talking about hiking and traveling and going out to local music festivals. And it came up to the fact that I was building an anti-memorial for fishermen's wives. And that's when Stephen perked up and he said, "That's a fisherman right there and his family." And he pointed to a picture, a portrait taken a long time ago of his great-grandfather who moved to Monterey from Italy and started a family here. And I asked him to tell me a story about him, and he immediately went to food. He said every day when he came home from out on the boat, they would blow a horn when they came into the harbor. And the horn meant they were coming home, and the wife could hear it up on the hillside. And to her, it meant, this is time to put the pot on to boil. And so by the time he got up the hill from the shore, she had the pasta ready, and they had dinner together. And it was a reunion from when he was out there working. So that's what my anti-memorial focuses on. The tanks on the site are reimagined as big pots of water. And I've used the big stones and brick rubble on the beach as to represent like coals. So you go around on the site and you find these piles, and you have to move the coals to the pot, and it's weight activated. So there's a plate that lowers, and as it lowers, a pulley moves a portrait, a family portrait of one of the local families, into this window, and you can see the family who moved here originally, one of the first generation families. So it's very interactive, and ideally the piles would be moved around the site, and you would wear little paths through the meadows as people choose to go to this pile or that one, and how they move through the site. The meadows will be native fescue. It's a very low water meadow, and they can go dormant over the summer, which is beautiful because it turns this golden amber color. So I wanted to really bring out to the fact that at this site you're really linking the culture with the ecology, and they're dependent on each other. The culture here reflects the ocean and the plants and everything that's here, and the ocean is also affected by the people who have evolved around it. One of the main features of my site is that I have a bus terminal. It is below this roof garden, and ideally a parking structure would be created outside of town, and when people come here they can park, and then they can get on a bus and then come into town. And this would be like a grand entrance for them. It would be a main arterial circulation place, but it would also be a destination. There are many things to do here, mostly on this side. You've got beautiful views and lots of amenities. The upper part, right here, this is about 15 feet above this main promenade, is more for the residents. It's a large gathering place, and you have got great views of the entire site. And you have on the balcony there of the building, you have what I'm considering like the communal front porch. It's a long deck, and you can come and gather there and watch the sunset. So, yeah. Let's see. That's my presentation, and you're welcome to come see my site analysis. You can touch it, you can taste it, and you can see it. So yeah, thank you.
So my name is Enrique. I'm an incoming senior student of landscape architecture. My project is inspired by memories of past times. And so my concept is actually reaching back while looking forward. And just to start off with, a couple of the other students mentioned, when we were on the side, we actually got to, touch, feel, smell, talk to people, get personal with the site. So one of the things that I did notice is that we do have a lot of these old rocks that have these, these metals in them that are just, they're pieces, they're historical pieces and artifacts. I thought, how cool would it be if I can incorporate those pieces of artifacts into my landscape? Just use that as preservation. So what I want to do is I'm going to go from the left to the right, and I'm going to just talk about the brief spaces. So my first subspace was incorporating those rocks into the central axis of this particular view. And so those rocks would have these rebars sticking out of them, followed by different shades of grasses behind them. And then eventually you'd be walking down into this huge tree that would be made out of rebar, in which people can actually put leaves with thoughts of green thoughts of whatever they think about in terms of the environment. So what you have is you have a very axial open view shed into the site, into the ocean. And then so then my second portion would be this. What I really wanted to focus on is framing the views. How awesome can it be if you're driving, even if you're driving down the road, you can look towards the right and see this framed view of the ocean. And so what this is actually it's actually also my memorial, because I had to do an anti-memorial. So my memorial is actually I wanted to memorialize not something that has passed. When we think about memorials, we think about something that passed. I wanted to memorialize something that's in the present now that could potentially be gone. And then, as we all know, the water is very important. I know that the water conservation is very important, especially for the city of Monterey. So I wanted to incorporate this infinity pool, which acts as a two-way illusion. The illusion was that if you're in this view shed, the water seems like it's infinite, and like it continues going. But if you're walking through the circulation, so the circulation goes like this, and then it's blocked by this by these trees right here. You go around, expecting to see that water continuing, but then you go around and it's completely drought. It's just nothing but drought. It's dry. There's like sand and old rocks. So that just kind of like gives you like an idea of like, try to get an idea to like conserve water. And then this other subspace right over here, I really wanted to focus on the preservation of the ecology and how important that was to the site. And I thought this was a really beautiful site, the cormorant landing where the birds were hanging out. So I wanted to incorporate that into the site by framing that also, but creating a frame closer to this building over here that I'm going to construct. And so if you're walking on the street, you get a view shed of those cormorants, those birds right over there in the back. And so that would create another subspace where people can actually just hang out, sit down, enjoy the views of the ocean and the birds. And then finally, what I wanted to do with Stohan's Gallery is I wanted to repurpose the site architecturally by redesigning Stohan's and preserving half of the building as the antique that it once used to be, and then creating another half of the building with a more futuristic, a newer identity of Monterey. So it would have, on one side of the building, I would imagine it to have more like antiques and older artwork, and then on the other side, I would have more like contemporary modern art pieces. And so then I would create another subspace over here where people can actually hang out. As a landscape architect students, we talk a lot about how do we incorporate architecture and landscape architecture. There's always this big fight about the architects coming and the landscape architects coming, we shove everything up. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to find a seamless place where we can actually work together. So I created the architecture in such a way that the architecture is part of the landscape architecture. So the architecture of the building actually just creates these grassy areas that are kind of hills in triangular shapes, which I actually used. The triangular shapes came as an inspiration from the sailboats that were actually in the background. And so this creates subspaces where people can actually hang out, be part of the building, but also be part of the landscape. And then you have all these other seating areas over here, restaurants, and I use the foundation of the old building that's in here to create what I call the Tiger Shark Bar and Grill, which would be a place to lounge and eat and just hang out. And then finally, the fish area, the fish tanks. My imagination for that was to repurpose them and put water in them and have put sardines in there. So just to revitalize those tanks and just kind of, instead of at one point we were putting sardines in there, so people can eat them. Now people can actually see them swimming around in those tanks. So,
my name is Jason Chan. I'm a fifth-year landscape architecture student, and then here's my design. So I grew up in San Jose area. So Monterey is very close to us, and then I have visited Monterey a couple of times to the aquarium. Also 17 miles, really close by. Also Santa Cruz area. So I've been here a couple of times. And then when I visit the aquarium, I have never noticed about this little open area because it's hiding behind a fence. And then every time when I walk by, I will go straight to the aquarium, but I will ignore this area. So as I did more research, I found out, okay, Monterey have a long history of fishing. And then, Monterey fishing actually started with Chinese fishermen. They immigrated here back in 1850s. So as I did more research, I found out, okay, so they started the fishing industry, but later on, they were forced to move out the area. But now I have never noticed any remain I haven't noticed any evidence that they have lived in the Monterey. So I want to bring back, first of all, reveal the history of Chinese fishing, and then also have a permanent area dedicated to the Chinese fishermen. So first of all, my anti-memorial will be inspired from the Chinese fishing boat. It will be a sail that move according to the wind direction and wind speed. So to reflect back to Chinese history, a single sail represent a blessing of sailing with the wind, which is sailing smoothly and then have a good trip. So placing that at the middle of the courtyard area, where before people get close to the ocean, is actually a blessing for them to have a good trip. So that's where I'm placing my anti-memorial, and then I'm also creating a big stair ramp going down close to the ocean, because and then at the end I'm creating a traditional Chinese design element of a water gate close to like right in front of the ocean. The design purpose of this is to frame the view of the ocean, but other than that, it's actually in traditional Chinese history, this is a gate that links both worlds, which is the land and the ocean. So it's a lot meaningful, and it creates a meaningful transition between the ocean and the land. And as a second generation Chinese immigrant myself, I moved here, of course, by plane. But 100 years ago, they moved here by boat. From most of the fishermen here were from southern China, and they had to travel by boat for I don't know, thousands of miles by months. And some of them can make it, and they're lucky, and then most of them cannot make it. So by creating a rock garden, of course, using a lot of local material. So rock is abundant material from local, and then also from our site, there's a lot of rocks. So by creating a rock garden, rock represent the obstacle they are going through coming to the U.S., also living in the U.S. And it also reflects back to a traditional Chinese garden, where I got the inspiration. Pretty much overall, the site will be informal rock garden. And then I'm keeping the existing Stonehenge building as a history museum, and then part of it will be reserved for indoor sittings. And then I'm keeping the existing fish tanks as a wind screen for the sittings. So a lot of my structures will be built on top of existing structures. Like for example, the existing concrete structure right here. I'm building a stand-up a deck that can view the existing bird right here. Because there's a dock right here, and then there's hundreds of birds on top of it. And also, I'm closing down the road right here to make it a bus road only for pedestrian safety.
My name is Nara Kim. First of all, I'm not used to computer graphics, so mine is all hand drawing and handwriting. My concept is Stairway to Heaven. I designed Fisherman Memorial Plaza. There are 4 themes. The first zone is crisis, and second is frustration, and third is salvation, and then last one is heaven. The first zone, I designed the hurricane. It represents the crisis. So the hurricane eye perspective here. Hurricane eye, there are statues, the light, and then the fisherman statues to to protect. And then there are walls. The wall height is different. The close to the eye is low, and then at the end of the wall is height. That means is the Christ is getting stronger. And then there are the color concrete pavement and then grass. And the second zone is restoration. It represents how the fishermen feel when the cuts in the like a trap. So this is perspective. This is overhead structure. It designed like the fishing net. And then I put the entire memorial between the over structure. It's temporary art publication, the plant. So it has the lights, the center of the plant, so people can attach a letter to memorial of the people. So, and then the third zone is the salvation. So we have to cross the bridge to go to heaven, but around the bridge, the very active waves, the trail, it means there are still the crises around the bridge. That means we have to overcome to go to heaven. So there is a perspective there on the bridge, and then the waves, the trail, and then water splashes. And the last one is heaven zones. The place is very quiet and peaceful. There are the circle, the memorial walls right here, the two walls, and then the water here.
My name is Manuel. I am an international student from Mexico. My background is architecture. I graduated in 2007, and so to me, landscape is like something that I'm unveiling right now. I find it truly amazing. For instance, just a quick idea. I never thought that you could actually create like rooms with plants. You know, I would always look at landscape as something beautiful, nice to look at, but not actually something that was functional in a way. And so it probably shows that I have an architectural background because I have a big architectural element on my site, which is a museum. When we first went there, that was like 6-8 weeks ago to the site. This was my very first time in Monterey. And so Dave Watts told us to gather at San Carlos Beach. And I remember that just by being here, what you immediately think about when you come to here is, at least I did, the aquarium. And that's what the city is mostly famous for. I'm sorry if that's not the case, but at least to me it is. So I remember that we gathered at San Carlos Beach, and somebody said that the aquarium was on the other end, the far end, and I just couldn't tell where that was. So meaning that I was expecting to have like a landmark, like a huge building right by the ocean, and that was the impression that I had. So from that very point, I started, okay, so the thing that I'm going to be proposing here has to provide a landmark for the site. So that's how I let me see if I can order all my ideas that I have right now. Okay, so Cannery Row is, according to Google Map, is the a long stretch that starts around the San Carlos Beach and ends by the aquarium. So when we got to this site in particular, I was like, okay, so this is like the middle the center of the entire street. And that immediately tells me that that is a very good opportunity to have like a heart of Cannery Row. You know, there's Cannery Row, but I think it lacks a heart. You know, like something like the main. I know the museum is immense and it's a very like a worldwide destination, but this site in particular is sitting in the middle of the road, and it just asks for something to be built that will draw even more people into the Monterey, hopefully. So my concept, the driving force behind this design is water, what I call just a ripple of water. Why am I choosing this? It's just that I find really mysterious, or not mysterious, but really like marvelous, the fact that water has, once it touches the surface, you know, the ripples as it's just like a depiction of life. Just like it starts with great force, and it just keeps on expanding, and until it just fades away. You know, just like the cycle of life. So that is what is behind the main layout. The pathways. So what I did is that it was particularly challenging to be able to design in such a short period of time. So what I did is that first off, I translated from feet to meters because I'm not used to thinking in feet. In Mexico, we have the scale measurement is in meters and centimeters. So I had in front of me like a vast piece of land. So what I did is that I just like invisibly gridded, so that way it's not as overwhelming to just have a huge piece of land and say, okay, now what I'm going to be putting in here. So I segmented. Well, it is segmented already by the street, and so I'm proposing 3 atmospheres here, and the major one. The first one would be for reflection mainly, because this is where I'm placing the memorial. The memorial that I came up with is just a gridded structure, a wooded structure, with 3 posts holding it, and the posts, it's all made out of wood. The post has the shape of like a person holding, you know, like this would be the fishing net. It symbolizes the fishing net. And each post symbolizes a fisherman. And they are all 3 of them working in team and holding the fishing net. And so this would be a pavilion. People could walk in there, and it would be in an enclosed environment, because mainly the character of the entire site is like festivity. So you don't want to, you know, harm anybody's feelings just by placing right next to such a, you know, vibrant place, such a, you know, a serious thing, like, you know, like this, what the memorial portrays. So you have the gridded structure, and each square would have a piece of glass with a name embedded. So as people walk into the pavilion, they would look up and see the name of the fisherman engraved on the glass. So that would be a way of, I don't know, paying tribute to honest and hard-working people who I believe that, it's just that I believe that death is not the end, it's just a transition point. So I truly believe that honest and hardworking people deserve to be in a much better place once they're no longer around us. So that's what the concept that lies behind the memorial. So as you keep on moving forward, this is the playground. It's an amphitheater with water running. So just this would be like a sheltered place for kids to be there, you know, away from the ocean, and kind of like in an environment spot in the park. This would be a pond for water retention, This will be more of a private area, and all of this will be the discovery, where the museum would be placed. There will be a prolonged catwalk that stretches out into the ocean. This will be a natural amphitheater where you sit there and you're able to not pay for any ticket or anything, and you'll be getting an incredible show all day long, especially if there's fog. At least that would be my impression. I'm not from here, so to me, fog is like something that is, I'm just not used to seeing that. And so the way the street kind of like segments, segments the site. So I'm just giving it like an undulating effect, very, very subtly, just to not have this street just like break the entire pattern. That's why I'm giving it a little bit of curvature here. And so just real quickly, the main features here will be the pond, which I just mentioned. It will be here. This will be jet sprays. Because the museum will be sitting on water. This is a water mirror, and this is a plaza. So since the north is here, you'd be getting the best side for that, the orientation. So the jet sprays would lead you to the main entrance of the museum. And right here is a pergola. What else? The amphitheater that I just mentioned. And basically that's it.